Revealed, this incredible brain hack unlocks amazing intelligence. Transform your life today. Maggie stood in her crammed classroom, fabric pinned up on the windows to keep the cold out and the warmth of creativity in. Her frizzy brown hair bounced as she moved, radiating passion like a candle flame. 35 and already weighed down by student loans, bills, and the everyday hustle that defined life in their small Midwestern town, she still believed that within every struggling youth, there was untapped brilliance waiting to be unleashed. A crackling energy filled the room as she spoke. Today, we're going to unlock your brain's potential. Her voice softened momentarily at the thought of her father, a proud war veteran, who had always believed in her. But now, with the news of his stroke, her heart felt heavy. Would he recognize her dreamer's spirit if he could no longer remember it? The chilling uncertainty lingered. In the days following the stroke, everything was a blur. The town rallied with casseroles and comforting gestures, their communal spirit like a warm quilt on a winter's night. Yet, whispers, judgments wrapped in disdain floated toward her like old shoelaces catching on the wind. Who does she think she is? They murmured, questioning her methods, her humble beginnings marked like scars. Maggie felt the familiar fire inside, urging her on. She wasn't just fighting for her father, she began to envision a world where her innovative brain hacks could not only heal him but uplift the entire community. But the local school board dismissed her dreams, branding them as too far-fetched for their conservative environment. It didn't matter. Desperation fueled her. She organized a community event, a chance for everyone to see her strength, the potential she knew was waiting in them. Yet, the weight of her brother's recent layoff at the factory cast a long shadow. Frustration bubbled beneath the surface, his anger directed not just at the situation but at their father, whose service had seemingly sacrificed their stability for years. Tension simmered as Maggie pored over plans for the day. Could she bridge that gap while rallying a community battered by struggles? On the night of the event, the gymnasium glowed with emotion. Local veterans stood proudly, remnants of sacrifice etched into their very beings. Families, their hearts heavy but hopeful, gathered under the bright fluorescent lights. The air churned with both skepticism and curiosity, reflective of Maggie's own internal battle. As she took the stage, doubt gripped her. Let's tap into something extraordinary today. She yelled, her voice a lifeline thrown into a sea of uncertainty. When she spoke about connection, about healing, the crowd shifted. She fought back tears, remembering each sacrifice and struggle that had brought them together. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each point she made, Maggie could see the stirring of hope. An emotional standoff emerged as she dared to defend her family's honor and her own, standing tall against the sharp whispers of their past. We're here to heal and to rise together. The room erupted, tension mingling with exhilaration. Amidst the clapping, she caught sight of her brother. A moment of silence hung in the air, charged with emotion. Would he stand with her, or would the weight of their struggles pull them apart? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, the laughter and hope from the crowd echoed in their silence. A question lingered: could Maggie truly mend the fractures in her family while igniting a flame of change? For the community? Maggie's heart raced as she locked eyes with her brother, Jake, at the back of the gymnasium. The cheers faded into a dull roar as anxiety clawed at her insides. The moments felt stretched thin, like a drawn-out note that refuses to resolve. Would he step forward? Would he see the hope she was trying to ignite? In the crowd, faces twisted with skepticism softened just slightly. Perhaps they were sensing something. A glimmer of belief that together, they could rise above the drudgery. She continued to speak, look around you. This community, this family has so much to offer. Our strength doesn't come from our past struggles but from our willingness to support one another. Jake shifted slightly, but didn't move closer. Maggie swallowed hard, determined. She would not let doubt overshadow the momentum pushing her forward. Encouraged, she dove deeper into the transformative methods she had been studying. Today, we'll practice mental exercises that will not just brighten your minds but bond us as a community. The gym echoed with applause, but a part of her remained tethered to Jake's distant figure. Unfazed, she engaged the crowd with creative demonstrations, guiding them to switch roles with each other, to express their thoughts, hopes, and dreams. Their laughter filled the space, gradually replacing apprehension. In the middle of the exercise, Maggie caught a glimpse of Jake whispering to someone nearby. Tension loomed like a thundercloud. Was he ridiculing her methods? Or maybe expressing concern? It struck her that despite their differences, she longed for his support, his belief. Sometimes, Maggie said with emotion, you need to see the world from another's shoes to understand their battles. She glanced again at Jake, half expecting him to come forward, but he remained still, arms crossed tightly. Shadows of frustration flickered across his face. As the final exercise approached, Maggie felt the burden of many eyes watching her. They could accept her or turn away, the risk was real. Taking a deep breath, she addressed the room once more. Let us invite our dreams to come alive. Stand with me if you believe that healing starts with connection. In a wave of movement, hands shot up, people slowly standing, one by one, until the whole gym was charged with energy. Hope flooded her heart, but when she looked back at Jake, he was still standing, immobile. Just give it a chance. She cried over the applause, desperation creeping into her voice. Hope tangled with fear as she realized how much this moment mattered. Then, like a bolt from the blue, Jake took a deep breath and stepped into the light. The crowd hushed, a collective intake of breath. There he was, her big brother, fighting his own turmoil and sorrow. Would he support her or push her back into the shadows? With every step he took, Maggie felt an avalanche of emotions surge: relief, hope, and the entrenched fear of rejection. As he approached, she could see uncertainty battling with something else, in his glance the flicker of belief she desperately yearned for. Maggie, he started slowly, I wish. The words trembled in the air, a bridge spanning between their worlds. What he said next could change everything. Or shatter the fragile connection she so desperately sought. The crowd stirred, silence enfolding them like thick fog, waiting for this pivotal moment. What would he reveal? Would it be what Maggie hoped for, or would it deepen the divide? Maggie, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, I wish I could believe in this. I really do. The words hung heavily between them. The crowd seemed to draw closer, breaths held in anticipation. Maggie's heart thudded in rhythm with her rising hopes, but those hopes began to fracture under Jake's uncertainty. Why can't you? She urged, desperation coloring her tone. This isn't just some silly gimmick. This could change lives, starting with ours. Jake's brow furrowed. You don't understand. Not everything can be healed with some exercises and positive words. There are wounds that run deeper. The weight of his words knocked the air from her lungs. Their family history loomed like an unyielding shadow, dark and heavy. Maggie glanced around, meeting the eyes of the crowd, their faces painted with confusion as they sensed the tension. Some were nodding, others whispering among themselves. She quickly turned back to Jake, willing strength into her posture. We've faced so much together. Don't you want to find a way to heal? To support each other? Jake hesitated, his expression flickering briefly before becoming resolute. He took a step closer, and for a moment, hope surged inside her once more. I want that, Maggie. But I can't shake this feeling. I'm afraid that participating will only make it worse. What if I open up and it goes nowhere? What if I fail you? A deep sigh escaped her lips. This isn't about failure. It's about taking that first step. The urgency in her voice echoed through the gym. It's about trusting we're not alone. And even if all of this is new and scary, we have each other to lean on. His gaze met hers, searching for something: answers, reassurance, courage. Maggie didn't know. Suddenly, she stepped forward, closing the distance between them. she lowered her voice. Remember when we were kids? We would ride our bikes despite our fears, and when you fell, I was there. We got back up together. This is just like that, Jake. In that moment, she saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes. The memories of their shared childhood flooded back, the laughter, the adventures, and the resilience they forged together. But doubt still lingered. As Maggie stood, enveloped in hope and anxiety, she felt the energy of the crowd tremble with anticipation. They too were waiting for his decision, their collective breath caught in the balance. Finally, Jake raised his hand. The crowd erupted into a murmur, the atmosphere electric. "All right," he said, his voice steadier now. "I'll try. But only because it's you asking." Maggie's heart soared. "Thank you. Together, we can face this." She turned to the crowd with a beaming smile. "Let us do this. Let us heal together." As the applause erupted, she felt the shift in the room. What began as skepticism turned into determination. They needed to move forward, as a family, as a community. But just as the excitement filled her heart, that familiar knot of fear still lingered. Would her brother truly be able to embrace this journey? And what if the path led back to painful memories still buried deep within him? The air buzzed with renewed energy, excitement crackling like a live wire. Yet, beneath the surface, Maggie felt a gnawing worry. She could support Jake, but would she be strong enough when the walls of their past came crashing down? "Maggie!" A voice called from the crowd, pulling her from her thoughts. "What's next?" She glanced toward the audience, suddenly aware of the path ahead, challenging exercises, vulnerable moments, and the promise of connection. Would they be ready to dive deep? Taking a deep breath, Maggie smiled once more. "Now, we start with something small, but powerful. Let us share one dream, one hope for ourselves or our community." As she looked out at the eager faces, a mix of excitement and trepidation sizzled in the air. What would these dreams reveal? Was the community ready to embrace the journey ahead, and would Jake's support hold strong in the face of their shared past? The crowd's murmurs filled the air as anticipation danced in every pair of eyes. Maggie can feel the collective hope bubbling, but her own pulse thrummed with uncertainty. What if? Those two words taunted her, whispering fears she tried to shake off. "Okay, who's first?" she called, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions within. She scanned the audience, looking for a volunteer. Slowly, a woman in the front row stood. Her hands were clasped tightly together, but a determined smile broke across her face. "I will," the woman said, her voice ringing clear. "My name is Sarah, and I'm ready to share." Maggie nodded, encouraging her. "Go ahead, Sarah. What's your dream?" "I want to open a community garden," Sarah said, her eyes shining with passion. "It feels like a way for us to grow together. We've always been so separated, but I believe we can change that." A wave of applause surged through the crowd. Maggie felt warmth spreading in her chest. Sarah's dream was a beautiful seed of hope. But then she turned and caught Jake's eye. What would he think? Would he join in finding strength in vulnerability, or would he pull back, wrestling with his demons? One by one, others began sharing their dreams: a youth mentorship program, a support group for the elderly, a reading initiative for children. Each story stitched a knot of connection, weaving the fabric of their community tighter than before. As Maggie listened, she realized how powerful sharing one's hope could be. It was momentum, a collective leap toward healing. However, in the midst of this blossoming positivity, Jake remained silent. His expression was contemplative, yet Maggie could see he was drawing inside himself. Was he proud? Scared? Or maybe both? As the last dream was shared, Maggie's heart beat more heavily than before. "Jake," she called gently, her voice breaking through his deep thoughts. "What about you? Do you have a dream?" The atmosphere shifted, a hush fell over the crowd. Jake's face softened, but doubt flickered in his eyes. "I don't know if sharing is, or has ever been my thing," he replied, looking down at his hands. Taking a step forward, Maggie felt the weight of the moment pressing down. She saw the hesitation, the battling emotions within him. I get that, Jake. But maybe this isn't just about sharing. It's about healing. It's about taking a risk we all took by showing up here. It's okay to feel afraid. Jake looked up, his gaze fierce. It's not just fear, Maggie. It's my past. What if I can't handle what comes out? What if the memories I bury resurface? Maggie took a deep breath, summoning all the encouragement she could. I'll be right here with you. We're in this together. Please, just try. He hesitated, eyes searching the faces around him. Slowly, he let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. All right, he said, his voice quiet but firm. I've always been afraid to admit I need help. Maybe I can share a small piece. The crowd cheered softly, a wave of support washing over them. Maggie's heart swelled. Then let us be brave together, she smiled. Every journey starts with one step. As Jake began to speak, she felt the world around them shimmer with possibility. But deep inside, a nagging concern twisted her stomach. What if this journey revealed more than they bargained for? Jake's voice trembled as he began recounting a memory long shrouded in silence. Would it weigh them down or set them free? Maggie held her breath, knowing this moment was crucial, the beginning of a path none of them had dreamed possible. What would it lead to, and were they all ready for what might emerge? Jake's voice shook as he spoke, each word a tender thread unraveling the fabric of his inner turmoil. When I was a kid, I had these dreams. Big ones. I wanted to be a musician. He paused, the corner of his mouth twitching into a half smile. I would lock myself in my room for hours, strumming my old guitar, imagining crowds cheering for me. The crowd hung on to his every word. Maggie saw pride flicker on Jake's face, but it was quickly overshadowed by the shadows creeping back in. But, he continued, life had other plans. My parents didn't support it. They wanted me to focus on realistic dreams. I put the guitar away and buried that part of myself. Maggie's heart ached for him. The fear in Jake's eyes spoke volumes about a struggle she could feel in her own bones. She resisted the urge to reach out and hold his hand, wanting him to continue on his own. I can't remember the last time I felt that dream, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. It feels like I abandoned who I was meant to be, who I still want to be. The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, Sarah spoke up again. You didn't abandon it, Jake. It's still there. It can grow, just like the garden I want to create. We just have to nurture it. The crowd murmured in agreement, pairs of eyes glinting with understanding. Jake blinked as he processed her words. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person who had shared their dreams earlier. I suppose I've been so afraid of failing that I just stopped trying. But maybe I've been wrong about what it means to try. A heavy stillness enveloped them. Maggie felt a collective breath being held. I guess what I'm saying is, Jake continued, that I've spent too much time hiding. It's time I stop living in the shadows of my fears. His voice grew stronger, more resolute. I want to pick up my guitar again. I want to write music that speaks to others just like it once did for me. I want to connect. A surge of emotion rippled through the audience, cheers erupting, the energy contagious. Jake's vulnerability had opened doors, not just for him but for everyone standing there, united in their dreams. Maggie felt teary-eyed, overwhelmed by the love surrounding them. As the applause settled, a thought bubbled to the surface of Maggie's mind. This is just the beginning, Jake. Imagine if we could hold regular gatherings, a place for anyone ready to share not just their dreams but also their struggles. Jake smiled, a spark igniting in his eyes. That would be amazing, Maggie. A community where nobody feels alone. Maggie felt her heart race with excitement. Together, we could help one another grow. We can create a space where people can share the things they've kept buried deep within. Jake nodded, a newfound determination resonating in his gaze. Let us do it. Together. But as the crowd erupted once more into applause, and hope filled the room like the scent of blooming flowers, Maggie felt a rush of anxiety wash over her. What if they weren't ready? What if revealing too much pushed them too far too fast? The joy igniting around her contrasted sharply with the shadows of fear trimming the edges of her vision. Could they really build this sanctuary they envisioned? Would they have the strength to weather any storms that might come their way? She needed to know if they were prepared for the journey ahead. Would they all commit to carrying the weight of dreams revived? As the crowd buzzed with excitement about their next steps, Maggie looked around again. There was hope, yes, but would it be the healing balm they needed, or a challenge that might splinter them apart? And as the voices rang out, one lingering question surfaced, echoing in the quiet corner of her mind: what would it truly take for them all to rise together? Maggie's thoughts churned as the applause faded, the cheers of encouragement filling the corners of the room. She glanced at Jake, who was basking in the light of newfound hope, his eyes alive with a passion she hadn't seen before. Yet there was still a mantra echoing in her mind, repeating the doubts that crept in like unwelcome shadows. Together, she whispered, almost to herself. But what did together really mean? Would everyone be able to embrace their stories without fear holding them back? Before she could spiral further, Sarah grabbed her arm, pulling her from her reverie. You okay, Maggie? Her friend asked, genuine concern painting her features. Maggie forced a smile but could feel a tremor of doubt radiating through her. Yeah, just thinking about everything. Are we really ready for this? You're magic, you know that? Sarah said, a warm grin unfurling across her face. You've got a spark. It'll catch fire, trust me. Just look at Jake. Maggie shifted her gaze back to Jake, who was now animatedly discussing plans for their community meetings with a few others nearby. His energy was infectious, tugging at her heartstrings. An ache of longing swelled within her. She wanted that same courage, the willingness to take a leap of faith. But then came the thoughts of the unspoken struggles. Were they prepared to peel back the layers of their pain? There were dreams buried in each of them, but they carried scars too. She'd seen the struggle, she'd lived it. Maybe we should set some ground rules, make it a safe space, Maggie said, her voice thoughtful. Not just for sharing dreams but for opening up about our fears too. Jake overheard her, turning his attention back to the two women. Yes. That's a great idea, Maggie. If we're going to dive deep, we need to support one another completely. Exactly, she nodded, feeling a spark of resolve build between them. An environment where everyone knows it's okay to be vulnerable. We're getting things off our chests, isn't something to fear, but a way to heal. The energy shifted ever so slightly, a collective understanding dawning around them. A ripple of agreement ran through the people gathered, their faces illuminated with a mix of enthusiasm and trepidation. Let us share dreams, Jake said, his voice gaining strength. Let us start with a simple format. Each meeting, someone steps up to share their dream and their fears about pursuing it. Sarah jumped in, her eyes brightening. And we'll cheer each other on. Build each other up. Celebrate the small wins along the way. Maggie felt her heartbeat quicken, excitement igniting again in her chest. A safe haven. A community. She imagined gatherings filled with laughter, music, and tears, a tapestry of stories woven together. But beneath that vision, the worry lingered. What if they faltered? What if one person's vulnerability led to hurt rather than healing? Could they truly rise together without breaking? Maggie, Jake said, breaking her train of thought again, what's holding you back? You're part of this too. What do you want to share? The room quieted, and all eyes turned to her. Suddenly exposed, she felt a warmth creep up her cheeks, but in that moment, she recognized a profound truth, she too was yearning to share. But would she be able to confront her fears? Taking a deep breath, the whisper of courage stirring within her, Maggie felt the weight of vulnerability press against her heart. I want to share, she began, her voice trembling with resolve. I want to reveal my own dreams, my own fears, And I want to help all of you. She paused, finally summoning the confidence. I want us to be fearless together. As anticipation hung in the air, her heart raced. Would they be ready for what she had to say? And just as she prepared for her next words, a sudden realization swept through her. This was the moment. Her thoughts crystallized, mingling anxiety with anticipation. They were on the edge of something incredible, something beyond their sheltered fears. What would happen next as they all stepped into the light together? As she opened her mouth to speak, a thought flickered. Would they all find their own worth in the stories shared, or would they stumble into their own truths with hearts unprepared? Maggie was about to find out, and the journey into the unknown awaited. Maggie took a deep breath, gathering strength from the energy radiating in the room. She could feel the anticipation thick in the air, heavy yet electric. The room was silent now, everyone leaning just a little closer, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and support. Okay, she begun, voice steady, I have dreams too. Things I've kept hidden because I was scared. Scared of failing, scared of being judged. I've always wanted to be a writer. Ever since I was a little girl, scribbling stories in my notebooks, it was always my escape. She could see Jason nodding, he had always known, even if they never discussed it. Encouraged by that small gesture, she pressed on, heart racing. But I didn't think I was good enough. I would read amazing books and wonder how I could ever create something that touched others the way they had touched me. So I told myself I'd get serious about it one day, and that day never came. A chuckle escaped Sarah. I remember. You used to write those little plays for us, remember? Maggie's cheeks warmed. Yeah, and those were just for fun. I let them slip away. Life got busy, and fear took over. The room moved with murmurs of agreement as others shared similar feelings. It was striking how everyone carried the weight of their quiet, hidden dreams. Glancing around, she saw not only Jake, but the others too, all of them nodding along, acknowledgement glazing their expressions. She could feel her confidence building in tandem with their warmth. I realize now that if we don't start taking those steps, we'll stay stuck. I want to change that for myself and for all of us. That's the spirit. Jake said, encouraging her with a wide grin. Maggie's heart lifted, gratitude spilling like sunlight through a window. So, I want to say this, I want to write again. I want to share my words, no matter how imperfect they may be. A wave of applause erupted, washing over her, filling the room with a vibrant sound of support. She could see Sarah beaming, pride coloring her features. Yet, beneath the applause lay an undercurrent of fear, creeping in. But it wasn't just hers to bear anymore. They were all in this together, she reminded herself. Every person in that room had life waiting for them behind the walls of their doubts. Now, who else wants to share? Maggie asked, her voice gaining strength. The challenge hung in the air, a call to action that resonated deep within each of them. A moment of silence passed, and then a hand raised tentatively at the back. Tom, always quiet, but with a sparkle of resolve in his eyes. I do. I want to dive into my photography. I've always shied away because my work felt too raw, too different from what people expect. Yes. Sarah exclaimed, that's what we're here for. Show us what you've got. The energy shifted, a warm breeze flowing through the room as others began to share their dreams too. One after another, stories unfolded, voices mingling with laughter and tears. They were entering uncharted territory, a sacred space inviting authenticity and connection. Maggie watched in awe as people found their voices, each story slipping into place seamlessly like threads weaving a tapestry of hope. As eyes met hers, shining with determination, she realized this was more than just a meeting, it was a revolution. Yet, somewhere in the back of her mind, a flicker of doubt swirled. What if, after the initial excitement, the shadows returned? As emotions swirled around her, a familiar feeling crept back in, but this time, Maggie felt it soften. If they continued to share, to comfort each other, perhaps they could keep the darkness at bay. Suddenly, Jake turned to her, his expression serious. Maggie, that was incredibly brave. But what is the one thing you fear most about sharing your work? What keeps you up at night? The atmosphere shifted. The weight of the question hung in the air, thick with possibilities. It was a challenge, a doorway into deeper territory where real fears mingled with the light they were creating. Maggie felt her breath catch. She wasn't ready to unravel everything just yet. Were they brave enough to face the truth behind their dreams? With her heart beating fast, she looked at the group who had become her new family. Would they embrace her truth if she laid it bare? Or was sharing only the surface of who they truly were? As she met Jake's piercing gaze, the question loomed, how deep into their fears could they go before it became too much? And what revelations awaited them just around the corner? Maggie felt the weight of Jake's question press against her chest. Silence hung in the air, as thick as the fog that sometimes settled over the city. She could sense everyone's eyes on her, anticipation making the moment feel both intimate and terrifying. Taking a shaky breath, she realized the only way through was to confront her fears head-on. I guess what keeps me up at night is the idea that my writing doesn't matter, she finally admitted, her voice trembling slightly. What if I put my heart out there and it's met with silence? Or worse, what if people laugh? What if my words fall flat? An audible gasp echoed from Sarah, her hand flying to her mouth. The room felt even smaller now, everyone drawn in closer as if they could shield her from the vulnerability she was exposing. You're not alone in that fear, Tom spoke up, his voice steady but tinged with empathy. I feel that way too about my photography. What if no one sees what I see? What if it's not good enough? Maggie's heart surged with gratitude toward Tom. They were all so afraid, yet here they were, sharing their truths, cutting through the fear together. The courage it took to be so open was nearly palpable, a gentle pulse in the room that invigorated her. She glanced around and saw nods of understanding. Jason whispered, just remember, the act of sharing is a victory in itself. Jake leaned forward. And that fear? He said, his voice sharp yet soothing. It's what stops us from stepping into our light. Maybe instead of letting it hold us back, we can use it to light the way. What if we looked at those fears as a roadmap? Maggie felt her spirit lift a little. The thought danced in her mind, what if fear wasn't a stop sign, but rather a guide? Let us turn that around. What if instead of fear, we each looked at what inspires us? Jake suggested. Let us do it, Maggie responded, energized by the idea. Let us make this a circle of inspiration. Share what makes you excited about this journey, and let us embrace that instead. The room buzzed again with fresh energy. Tom spoke first, his face lighting up. I just love how photography captures a moment forever. There is so much beauty all around if you just look close enough. Others joined in, enthusiasm filling the gaps of vulnerability they had just laid bare. They spoke about passion in painting, music, cooking, and crafting stories. Each voice became a little stronger, each story a little richer. As they shared, Maggie felt the shadows of doubt begin to lift. With every moment of connection, they solidified their collective strength. This was their safe haven, a place where words and dreams thrived. Yet, just as she began to feel comfort in this new rhythm, Jake caught her eye again. Maggie, would you feel comfortable sharing a piece of your writing next week? We can read our work together. No judgments, just honesty. Her stomach twisted. The very thought sent a jolt of panic through her, but she also felt a little spark of excitement. What if this was the nudge she needed to finally let her words breathe outside of her notebook? Maggie? Jake's gentle tone broke through her thoughts. Okay, she whispered, but the word felt like a leap off a cliff. What stood beneath her wasn't just an abyss, it was a community that she could trust. As the group erupted into cheers, she realized one thing, she wasn't just stepping out of her comfort zone, she was diving into a new life. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. She braced herself, knowing deep down there was no turning back now. The last question lingered in her mind like a whisper, teasing and tantalizing, what if sharing her work opened doors she never knew existed? Closed doors had kept her safe, but what awaited her on the other side? The week rolled by in a whirl of excitement and anxiety. Each day felt like an eternity leading up to the moment she would share her writing. Maggie filled her evenings with frantic revisions, her heart racing each time she picked up her pen. She sat at her little desk, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the pages, but doubts often lingered like unwelcome visitors. Maybe it's just not good enough, she muttered to herself, the familiar weight of uncertainty crawling back. But every time those thoughts invaded her mind, she vividly pictured the faces of her support group. The way they listened, the genuine smiles when they spoke about their own passions, ignited a flicker of courage within her. They would have her back, she believed that. Finally, the day arrived. The cafe where they usually gathered buzzed with voices, clinking cups, and soft laughter. But for Maggie, a cloud of nervous energy settled in her stomach. Rearranging her notes for the umpteenth time, she caught sight of Jake's reassuring grin from across the room. His presence was a comforting anchor amid her swirling thoughts. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice smooth like honey. She nodded, her heartbeat hammering in her chest. "Just nervous." "Rightly so," he replied, a twinkle of encouragement in his eyes. "That means it matters. You're about to share something deeply personal." His words hung in the air, wrapping around her like a warm blanket. One by one, the group members read their pieces. Each story, each photo, captured moments that felt like pieces of their souls. Laughter and a few sniffles erupted as they shared both heartfelt and humorous tales. Maggie's anticipation began to morph into a strange blend of fear and exhilaration. Then, it was her turn. As she stood, a hush rolled across the room. Her palms were slick, and the words she had practiced so many times swirled chaotically in her mind. Yet, as she looked out at the supportive faces before her, Tom, Sarah, and especially Jake, she felt grounded. Taking a deep breath, she began to read. The words spilled out like water from a broken dam, each sentence flowing with a life of its own. She felt the vulnerability rush through her, reciting lines that held her dreams, fears, and truths. With every word, her voice grew steadier, bravely revealing the layers of her heart. When she finished, silence enveloped the room for a brief moment. Then, applause erupted, a thunderous wave that crashed over her insecurities. Maggie's breath hitched, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "Wow, Maggie, that was incredible!" Sarah exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "Seriously, that was powerful," Tom added, nodding vigorously. Jake stepped forward, his expression filled with pride. "You put yourself out there, and it connected with us all. That piece deserves to be read by many more." Maggie's cheeks flushed. She hadn't even considered that possibility, her words reaching beyond this safe space. The spark of inspiration ignited again, and something shifted inside her. What if she expanded her writing past the pages of her notebook? What if we turn this into a project? A collection of our work, published together? Someone suggested tentatively, breaking into her thoughts. Collective murmurs of excitement rippled through the group. Ideas whirled around like colorful balloons, each one buoying Maggie's spirit higher. She could feel a shift not just in herself but within the entire room. The urge to create something beautiful and meaningful was infectious. Just as the possibilities seemed endless, a voice echoed from the back of the cafe. "What if we invited an audience to share our journey? Shared struggles and triumphs, all wrapped up in this creation?" Maggie's heartbeat quickened yet again. Would they really open themselves up to an audience? The thought sent electricity down her spine. Could this be the next step toward something even greater? Or would the weight of exposure pull them all back into shadows? As she looked around at her friends, determination mingled with fear. The moment had arrived. Would they take the leap together? Would they unveil their dreams, one piece at a time? The cafe buzzed with excitement as everyone exchanged glances, thoughts swirling in the air like confetti. Maggie's heart raced, not just out of fear, but with a sense of possibility that shimmered dangerously close. This was it. They stood at the edge of transformation, a collective breath held in anticipation of what might come next. Are we really ready for that? She pondered, her voice breaking through the chatter. To open our hearts in front of strangers? What if they don't understand? Jake stepped closer, his brows furrowing with thought. Maggie, what if we started small? Maybe invite some friends, family, and a few neighbors. Let them see who we really are. His words sparkled with a kind of bravery that went straight to Maggie's heart. Yes. Let us take our stories to the community, inviting them into our journey. Sarah's enthusiasm lit up the room. Tom nodded, excitement building in his eyes. Imagine if our truths can reach those who feel just as we do. It could inspire others to share, to dream, to heal. The group erupted into a flurry of ideas, each person feeding off the energy of the others. What had begun as a simple gathering amongst friends had morphed into a movement. They wanted to show not only their dreams but the healing power of vulnerability, the strength found in resilience. It was exhilarating. Maggie felt the weight of uncertainty begin to lift as sheer anticipation frolicked in her chest. They were not just sharing words, they were creating a safe haven for all who needed it. As the laughter and chatter began to dim, Jake spoke up confidently again. Let us plan this out. We could gather next Friday right here, prepare our pieces, and create a welcoming atmosphere. Everyone who attends deserves our message, the message of hope. Nods of agreement flowed through the crowd, each face alive with determination. Their shared dreams took root, spreading hope like a wildfire. Let us decorate the space, bring in some music, Sarah chimed in, and make it feel like a celebration. We won't just present our stories, we'll invite the community to be part of it. Maggie felt her heart swell with pride for her friends. They were no longer shackled by their fears, they were breaking through to light up the world around them. Monday rolled around, and excitement buzzed through the air as Maggie stood in front of the group again at the cafe. They transformed it into a warm, inviting space, twinkling lights strung overhead like stars, busy chatter filling the air, warmth radiating from their faces. As the crowd began to filter in that Friday evening, Maggie felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. She'd never been in front of so many people, but she wasn't just standing there alone, she had her team, her family by her side. Welcome, everyone. She started, her voice steady, filled with hopeful energy. Tonight isn't just about us. It's about connecting, sharing, and celebrating. We're here to inspire one another. The room erupted into applause, a swell of warmth spreading through the crowd. The sounds of laughter, clinking glasses, and animated conversations filled the space with an undeniable spirit of camaraderie. With each performance that followed, Maggie felt the shift in the atmosphere. Everyone sharing their journey led to comfort, vulnerability, and a celebration of the obstacles they had overcome. And then came Jake's turn. When he stepped up, her heart fluttered with excitement. Would he truly embrace this moment? As he began playing his guitar, the notes twinkled through the air, wrapping around everyone like a soft embrace. He sang about dreams lost and found, the journey from despair to hope. The vulnerability filled the room, reaching into every heart, connecting them all. Tears glistened in Maggie's eyes as she watched him, pride swelling in her chest. It was as if each of their stories were intertwining, building towards something far greater than any one of them. Once the night drew to a close, and the applause filled the air once more, Maggie felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her. Each story, each song shared, they were not alone. They had created a vibrant community built on vulnerability, hope, and inspiration. Together, she whispered to herself, that word resonating deeply. They had risen together, transforming fears into connections, revealing pieces of themselves to ignite the light in others. As the evening drew to a close, laughter echoed in the air, and she felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude. They had woven themselves into something extraordinary, and Maggie knew this was just the beginning of many more stories waiting to be told. This was the moment she had longed for. She was a writer, a dreamer, and now, a part of a community filled with hope and purpose. And as the night wrapped itself around them, Maggie realized this journey had only just begun. With every brave step made, they had transformed not just themselves, but the world around them, where the beauty of connection flourished. Would they continue to shine together? Would this ripple effect spark a movement that spread beyond their small town? The truth lay ahead, waiting to be uncovered, one story at a time. Now, if you love this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts and feelings about tonight's transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of connection. Your support truly makes all the difference in our mission to inspire and transform lives together.